Good afternoon. Let me get used to. Okay, so once again, I'm Asad. Sorry about the injury. I just poked my hand in my bag and there was a plastic pencil there. It poked very hard. There was a lot of blood. Okay, I put something on top of it, like a band-aid, which is also, I think, has some plastic in it. Okay, so I work for the Center for Sustainable Value Networks. What is this? This is a sustainability center as part of what we call MISI. This is where I work. What is MITI? MITI is one of the 6 centers for supply chain and logistics excellence. We call it the MIT Global Scale Network. We have been here from 2011. And so without further ado, let me get into the thick of it. We're here about plastics, right? So the imperishable material cannot be biodegraded or cannot be fully degraded, right? And I found these pictures from National Geographic quite telling into how plastic is affecting our lives. So I thought, just to begin the conversation, let me bring some of these here. Some of these maybe you have already seen it. There's plastic, it's everywhere, right? So how did we get into this? How did we land into where we are today? And those of you who are not as old as I am, I would want to play, can we play this? I don't know if I can play from here. So this is a clip from a movie, The Graduate, okay? Very popular for many different reasons. This one is a scene that's very reflective of how it all started somewhere, I think in 1967 when the movie was released. So, I hope.
Proud. What are you going to do now?
I was going to go upstairs for a minute.
Oh, I meant with your future. Your life.
Well, that's a little hard to say.
Ben.
Excuse me. Mr. McGuire.
Ben.
Mr. McGuire.
Come with me for a minute. I want to talk to you. Excuse us, Joanne. Please. Thank you.
Oh, he is such It's just different. I look at him and I can't believe it. I simply
I just want to say one word to you. Just one word.
Yes, sir.
Are you listening?
Yes, I am.
Plastics.
Exactly how do you mean?
There's a great future in plastics. Think about it. Will you think about it?
Yes, I will.
Enough said. That's a deal.
Here he is now.
Okay, so that's how it was everywhere. We were in love with it, right? We are still. And we are married to it. Looks like right now our relationship with this polymer partner is kind of dwindling. The honeymoon period is over. We are heading probably to the counseling courts, or if not to the divorce court. But so whose fault is it anyway? There's somebody to blame, right? So is it the material itself, or is it related to the way we source it, the way we make things with it, the way we design it, the way we manufacture it, move it, and even govern its use? Okay? There are a lot of different factors. So the idea is we have to look a little bit beyond, a little bit more holistically into it. So being a supply chain guy, I have this picture. I think we all know very simply what do we have our economy as. There are renewable sources, non-renewable sources, okay? And then we want to use the recycle, reuse sources as well. And finally, it ends up in a landfill or in a ocean fill or an air fill, right? And this is how typical supply chain is, right? All the way upstream from sourcing to manufacturing, moving, and finally going into a landfill. So talking about circularity, what we essentially would like to say is we don't want these non-renewable sources, and we don't want to go into this fill, and we want to keep this cycle going on as much as possible, as effectively as possible, right? So how do we achieve it? Okay, coming back to my supply chain simple diagram that I had given earlier. So the idea is we have to find these leverage points. Okay, it's the same picture, but at every place, at every echelon, okay, we have to find opportunities to recycle, remanufacture, refurbish, redistribute, resell. Okay, we have to give the customer the opportunity to fix it. We don't want to take that right away from that customer. And not just that, we have to find a group of users who can be the second-hand users, who could be the third-hand users, and probably we may still have a little bit of this. But that's how the thinking has to be, and that's how a supply chain that enables a circular economy has to be designed. Okay, easier said than done. I'll give some examples of some companies who have done it. I mean, I have a few more interesting examples than what I'll quote here, but in the interest of time, I'll just give 2 or 3. So the first one is Saika. Saika is a paper manufacturing company in Europe, and what's their specialty? Saika paper is 100% recycled, but the volumes are not small when I say 100% recycled. Okay, this is in short their supply chain. So you see they have recovering centers which recover huge amounts of paper. The paper goes back to their paper mills, and so the essential source upstream is very much what is coming from these recovery centers. And they have produced, I think it was a 2017 number, 2.5 million tons using 2.8 million tons of recycled material. Okay, a good, great conversion. How did they do it? So they have been into the business. This is their value chain. So essentially, if you see the dotted line, what they realized is their mission was zero waste. They said, we can be the champion stakeholder in this entire supply chain. There were many who deals and handles with the waste management part. And then they found their own levers. The levers were composting, the collection of the waste in a more intelligent way. Okay, so they found their strength, they found the levers they could work with, and in the process, they are very well established today. Okay, and I have 2 minutes. Okay. So there's some numbers on them. There are 112 plants, 9,300 employees, 9 countries. They are big. 2.7 million tons and 2.5 million tons of paper has been produced. Another example, Viga. Okay, maybe you didn't hear this name. What is Viga? They make clothes available for children at a subscription rate. Okay, you will have 20 pieces in your cupboard, and then when your child grows, you send them back. They will give you one size bigger, and basically these clothes will be inspected, professionally washed. So closing the loop. Okay. This also provides incentive to produce higher quality clothes. Okay, so this is yet another example where they thought differently. Okay, so they thought beyond what they were doing. Okay, and so my topic, as I said, was system dynamics, system thinking. Hardly can do it in 2 minutes, but let me talk a little bit about it. Okay, but before that, also there's a story of the frog. Okay. So if you've heard it, if you put a frog in a hot boiling pan, it will right away jump outside. But if you put him in cool water and slowly heat the water, it will stay there until it gets boiled. Okay, why? Because its senses are not designed to react to slow gradual changes. Its senses are designed to react to immediate changes. Okay, so learning from that, we are not very different the way we are. We were once upon a time, we started plastic for a good reason. Okay, so we would want to reflect our choices and also understand how things evolve over time. So systems thinking is a way we really try to handle complex problems and see the interactions between. Here's an example, okay, where we can a little bit take these problems that we are facing today in a more holistic way. So here we have a plastic pollution problem. Okay, we find regulations, levies, some of the things that we talked about. They provide a solution to us to handle some of the mess we have, and then looks like things are getting balanced. However, the greater the reliability we have on these interim solutions, it prevents us from addressing the underlying drivers. And the more we ignore these, there is a time factor here, okay? that these drivers become more and more powerful. Okay? And why they become powerful? Because in the process of time, they are fed by the uncircular economy, they are fed by planned obsolescence and factors like these. So these factors together will continue to add, and in the process, instead of having a solution which we thought was symptomatic by having these levies and other things in place, we ended up compounding the problem. And okay, this inner loop kind of disappears. So this is how a very small problem, but then if you were asking me what would be a better way to do it, so somehow these interim solutions are good, but for every solution that we have, there is a side effect. And we have to map it, we have to understand it, how it evolves over time. Okay, so in a systems thinking scenario, we would look not just cradle to grave, cradle to cradle, we would plan the product, design the product so that it genuinely gets recycled in the end. Okay, if we would end up wasting, let's waste more intelligently. Okay, can we do fundamentally something different so that our demand for the plastic goes down? So these are some of the things we can do. And again, it's not a linear cause and effect simple process. Okay, many factors, all interrelated. So that's what the system thinking approach basically tells us to do. I have a case here. This is Sabre Holdings. They wanted to work through. So basically, this is the post waste reduction plan. It's a very simple thing they ended up doing. So they had the sources of waste, they had something in place already, and what this picture shows is they strategically replaced their red, yellow, and green bins. Okay, but just to be able to do that, okay, in the earlier picture, the pre-plan, they didn't have these red bins here, which cannot be recycled, the green bins here for compost, and the red bins here and the yellow, they were not there. So the red bins were removed from here, yellow were added here, and green were added here. Okay, but this required going behind the scenes and making some behavioral changes, educating the people, and going all over the campus. And what you see, the little bits that we have here are the several interventions they made. And this is how a real life systems thinking diagram looks like, yeah, that we build on. So, moral of the story, okay, we have to analyze the problem, we have to look for the bigger picture, we have to find our leverage points. Here's a quote from Archimedes, okay, give me the right position and I'll move the world. And some of the examples I gave, whether it was Psychia, which found their sweet spot in the waste management part, or Viga, which have a new business model, Sabre, which made several smaller interventions, okay, but they all achieve it differently when they look outside their own boundaries, okay, and at the same time, we have to be careful about the unintended consequences. So finally, I mean, there's a message for activists, for consumers, for the governments, they can legislate, but businesses have a great opportunity today to innovate and make some real changes on the ground that can go beyond the hype of sustainability and make some real on-ground changes, okay? We can talk more about this. I think we have a panel, so you're welcome if you want to take this discussion further. Okay? Thank you very much.